My name is Elaine Winters, 34 years old and a single mother to my amazing 7-year-old daughter, Lily. What my family does not know is that behind my modest lifestyle lies a $20 million tech empire I built from scratch. Last Thanksgiving, my father publicly labeled me the family disgrace and kicked us out in front of everyone. I simply said fine and walked away without argument. The irony. They had no idea they were living off my fortune the entire time. Before I tell you how I finally stood up for myself, drop a comment telling me where you are watching from, hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about finding strength when family lets you down. I grew up in a traditional status-conscious Boston family where appearances meant everything. My father, Gerald Winters, was a banking executive who valued social standing above all else. His entire world revolved around maintaining what he called proper behavior and respectability in our upper-middle-class neighborhood. Every decision in our household had to pass his strict filter of what others might think. My mother, Martha, was his perfect complement, a passive woman who dedicated her life to maintaining our home and never questioning his decisions. In 40 years of marriage, I cannot recall a single time she stood up to him about anything meaningful. She chose peace over confrontation, even when that peace came at the expense of her children, particularly me. My older brother, Patrick, was the golden child from day one. 5 years my senior, he followed our father into banking, married a socially appropriate woman from a good family, and had 2 perfectly behaved children, Thomas and Emma. Every family gathering became a celebration of his latest promotion or acquisition. In my father's eyes, Patrick could do no wrong. My younger sister, Jennifer, was equally adept at playing the family game. 2 years younger than me, she studied art history at my father's alma mater, dated only men he approved of, and recently got engaged to William, the son of one of his golf buddies. Her wedding plans dominated family conversations for months, with no expense spared for the country club ceremony. Then there was me, the middle child, and perpetual disappointment. From an early age, I questioned our family traditions and expectations. Why did we need to attend the same church as the bank president when my mother clearly preferred another? Why could Patrick play sports, but I needed to focus on piano lessons I hated? My questions were met with stern warnings about respecting authority and knowing my place. My greatest transgression in high school was developing a passion for computer science rather than the literature degree my father had planned for me. I still remember his reaction when I brought home information about MIT instead of his beloved Dartmouth. Computers are for antisocial men and secretaries, he said dismissively. A proper young lady focuses on the humanities. Despite his disapproval, I fought for and won a compromise. I would attend Dartmouth, but major in computer science. It was my first real victory against his control, though it came with months of cold shoulders and passive-aggressive comments. During my sophomore year, I met James Thompson in an economics elective. Handsome, charming, and from a wealthy Connecticut family, he initially passed my father's stringent boyfriend criteria. What none of us knew was that behind his polished exterior lurked a selfish coward. When I discovered I was pregnant at 25, James vanished within 48 hours. His parting words still echo in my memory. "This is your problem to solve. I have a future to consider." My family's reaction was equally devastating. My father paced our living room, face purple with rage, calling me irresponsible and naive. My mother cried silently in the corner. Patrick lectured me about contraception as if I were a child. Only Jennifer showed a flicker of empathy before our father shut down her attempts to comfort me. "There are ways to fix this problem," my father said in a low, controlled voice. "No one needs to know. You can return to your normal life afterward." His words hit me like a physical blow. In that moment, something fundamentally changed within me. The daughter who had always sought his approval died, replaced by a woman who would make her own choices. "There is nothing to fix," I replied, my hand protectively covering my still flat stomach. "I am having this baby." I dropped out temporarily, ignoring my father's warnings that I was ruining my life. He gave me an ultimatum: follow his solution or lose my family's support. I chose my baby and moved into a tiny Cambridge apartment using my savings from summer internships. Those early days were incredibly difficult. I coded from home while caring for infant Lily, taking freelance web development jobs whenever I could find them. Sleep became a luxury I rarely enjoyed. Still, in those quiet moments with my daughter sleeping on my chest, I knew I had made the right choice. When Lily turned 1, I developed my first successful app, a specialized productivity tool for working parents that caught the attention of several tech investors. This became the foundation of my company, Innovate Now. Over the next 7 years, through relentless work and countless sacrifices, I grew it into a multi-million-dollar enterprise. Despite my success, I made a conscious decision to hide my wealth from my family. They had written me off as a failure, and something in me wanted to maintain that perception. Perhaps it was pride, or perhaps I was conducting a long-term experiment to see if they would ever accept me without external validation. Lily grew into a bright, mature little girl who understood far more than most children her age. She knew that Grandpa and Grandma were complicated people who had difficulty accepting our life choices. Despite their coldness, she maintained an optimistic hope that one day they would fully embrace her. We lived in a modest apartment in Cambridge, nothing that would suggest my true financial status. Meanwhile, I anonymously purchased my parents' mortgage when their bank underwent a merger, ensuring they could keep their home when my father made some poor investment decisions. I paid off medical bills when my father had heart surgery 3 years ago, making it appear as if their insurance had covered more than it actually did. In a twist of fate that still makes me smile, Patrick unknowingly managed several of my business accounts at his bank, never connecting that the successful tech entrepreneur he occasionally mentioned at dinner was actually his disgraced sister. The substantial fees my company paid helped secure his last promotion. My feelings about my family remained complicated. Part of me desperately wanted their acceptance, while another part resented their shallow judgment. I maintained minimal contact, obligatory birthday calls, and occasional Sunday dinners, where my father would pointedly ask Lily about male teachers or coaches searching for surrogate father figures to validate our existence. Throughout it all, I built a life centered on love rather than appearance. While my family chased status, Lily and I chased joy. She never had designer clothes like her cousins, but she had security, attention, and freedom to explore her own interests. We had something my childhood home never offered: authenticity. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, my mother called with the annual guilt-laden invitation. "We are having Thanksgiving at the house again this year," she said, without preamble. "Jennifer is bringing William to discuss wedding plans. Patrick and Catherine will bring the children. I think even someone in your situation deserves family time on the holidays." I nearly declined immediately. These gatherings inevitably involved Patrick showcasing his latest achievement, Jennifer receiving excessive praise for basic accomplishments, and me fielding awkward questions about whether I had met any suitable men lately. But Lily had been asking about her cousins, whom she rarely saw despite our geographical proximity. "Let me check my schedule and get back to you," I replied, knowing this would irritate my schedule-obsessed mother. That afternoon, I met my best friend Stephanie for coffee at our favorite Cambridge cafe. Since college, she had been my rock, the one person who knew both my family struggles and my business success. "They invited us to Thanksgiving again," I said, stirring my latte absently. Stephanie raised an eyebrow. "And you are considering going because—" "Lily wants to see her cousins. She does not understand why family gatherings are so rare." "The last 3 holidays ended with you calling me in tears from your car," Stephanie reminded me. "But you are stronger now. Go, but set boundaries. You do not have to accept their judgment anymore." When I told Lily about the invitation, her face lit up. "Can I show Emma my science fair medal?" she asked, referring to the award she had won for her project on renewable energy. "Of course, sweetheart," I promised, already anticipating my mother's dismissal of the achievement as not being appropriately feminine. The next weekend, we went shopping for gifts, a tradition I maintained despite knowing my offerings would never match Patrick and Jennifer's extravagant presents. I selected expensive but tasteful items that would not reveal my wealth: a high-end cashmere scarf for my mother, premium whiskey for my father, educational toys for my niece and nephew. The Tuesday before Thanksgiving brought unexpected professional triumph. After months of negotiations, I closed a $40 million acquisition of a promising AI startup, significantly expanding Innovate Now's capabilities. My executive team took me to dinner at an exclusive Boston restaurant to celebrate. To Elaine, the most brilliant and underestimated tech visionary in the industry, toasted my CFO, raising a glass of champagne. As my colleagues showed genuine appreciation for my work and vision, I could not help but contrast this with the dismissive treatment I would undoubtedly receive at my family home the next day. In my professional world, I was respected and valued. In my family world, I remained the cautionary tale. Thanksgiving morning arrived with a nervous energy I could not shake. Lily spun around our living room in her favorite fancy dress, a purple velvet number with silver stars that she had picked herself. "Do you think Grandpa will like my dress?" she asked innocently. "Everyone will love it because you look beautiful," I answered, avoiding the direct question. My father would almost certainly find it too colorful, too unique, too everything that did not conform to his rigid standards. While Lily watched cartoons, I had a brief anxiety attack in the shower my body, remembering past holidays and the inevitable criticism they brought. I gave myself 5 minutes to breathe through it, then put on my armor, a conservative navy blue dress, minimal makeup, and a simple gold necklace, perfectly calibrated to avoid criticism without completely erasing my identity. The 2-hour drive to suburban Boston passed with Lily singing along to her favorite songs, her excitement mounting as we got closer. I used the time to practice responses to anticipated comments about my life choices, my career, and most painfully Lily's lack of a father. As I pulled into the circular driveway of my childhood home, I noticed the new landscaping my anonymous donation had funded after a storm damaged their property last spring. The irony was not lost on me that my parents bragged about their garden to neighbors while considering me the family failure. I sat in the car for a moment, giving myself a final pep talk. You are successful. You are a good mother. Their opinion does not define you. Lily unbuckled her seatbelt impatiently. "Mommy, can we go in now? I want to show Emma my new bracelet." We walked up the stone path to the imposing colonial-style house where I had grown up. Before I could knock, my mother opened the door, her smile tight and rehearsed. "There you are. Everyone is already here," she said, her tone suggesting we were late, though we had arrived exactly at the requested time. She bent stiffly to give Lily a brief hug, then straightened to inspect my appearance, her eyes cataloging every detail for later criticism. My father did not come to the door to greet us, a calculated slight I had come to expect. The house smelled of turkey stuffing and pumpkin pie, the traditional Thanksgiving scents, triggering a confusing mix of nostalgia and dread. Lily immediately spotted her cousins in the family room and ran off to join them, leaving me to face the gauntlet of relatives alone. I took a deep breath and stepped into the living room, bracing myself for what would undoubtedly be a very long day. The living room was already crowded with extended family comfortably settled into their usual social hierarchy. My father's sisters Barbara and Dorothy occupied the prime seats near the fireplace, while various cousins' spouses and their children filled the remaining space. Several heads turned as I entered conversation momentarily, pausing before resuming with forced normality. My brother Patrick approached, first drink in hand, his expression a practiced mix of condescension and forced brotherly affection. "Elaine, how is that little online business of yours going? Still making those apps or whatever?" he asked loudly enough for others to hear, establishing early that my career was something quaint and insignificant. "The business is doing well, thank you," I replied neutrally, offering no details he could minimize. His wife Catherine glided over perfect in her expensive cashmere sweater and pearl necklace. "Elaine, you look rested," she said, the slight pause, communicating her actual assessment. "It must be so challenging managing on your own, but you seem to be making do despite your circumstances." Before I could respond, Jennifer appeared, strategically flashing her enormous engagement ring to everyone in the vicinity except me. "Elaine, you finally made it," she said, as if I had been deliberately late rather than perfectly punctual. Seeking escape, I headed toward the kitchen. "Can I help with anything, Mom?" My mother barely looked up from her meticulous arrangement of appetizers on a silver platter. "No, I have a system. You might mess things up. Just go socialize." The dismissal was typical, her way of maintaining control over her domain, while reinforcing my outsider status. As I selected a glass of wine from the sidebar, I overheard Aunt Barbara whispering to my cousin Sarah, not bothering to lower her voice enough to prevent me from hearing. "Such a shame about Elaine. She could have had such potential. Now she will always be the family mistake," she said, nodding subtly toward Lily, who was showing something to her cousins across the room. The casual cruelty made my hand tighten around the wine glass, but years of such comments had taught me to maintain my composure. I turned away, pretending not to have heard. My father finally acknowledged my presence with a curt nod from his armchair, not bothering to stand. His deliberate disrespect was a clear message to everyone present about my status in the family hierarchy. Patrick was just telling us about his promotion, he announced to the room, though clearly directed at me. Senior Vice President now, and they are giving him a company car. Patrick launched into an elaborate description of his recent professional triumph, followed by details about the summer house in Cape Cod they were planning to purchase. Catherine eagerly joined in describing the exclusive sailing club they would join and the private schools they were considering for Thomas and Emma. Not to be outdone, Jennifer and William monopolized the next 20 minutes discussing their wedding plans at the Brookline Country Club, including the imported flowers, custom gown, and honeymoon in the Maldives. The conversation flowed around me as if I were invisible, a familiar feeling at family gatherings. My phone vibrated in my purse, likely an urgent message from my executive team about the acquisition we had just completed. I could not check it without drawing attention and inevitable comments about my inability to be present with family. The uncomfortable moment I had been dreading arrived when Uncle Robert, always oblivious to family tensions, turned to me directly. "So, Elaine, have you heard anything from Lily's father lately? What was his name again?" A painful silence fell over the room. My father immediately cut in. Robert Patrick was about to tell us about the new investment strategy his team developed. Fascinating stuff. The swift redirection was not done to protect my feelings, but rather to avoid an uncomfortable topic that might tarnish the perfect family image my father worked so hard to maintain. I excused myself to use the bathroom, needing a moment alone. Once inside, I quickly checked my phone to find several messages about a minor crisis with the acquisition paperwork that needed immediate attention. I sent a few rapid responses, knowing my team could handle things, but feeling responsible nevertheless. As I returned through the hallway, I overheard my father speaking to my Uncle Henry, who had just arrived. "Do not ask about Elaine's situation," he said in a low voice. "She is still single, still struggling with that little job of hers. No prospects for Lily having a proper father figure. A shame, really." The casual dismissal of everything I had built, both as a mother and a professional, stung despite my mental preparation. I paused, took a deep breath, and continued back to the living room with my mask of indifference firmly in place. When dinner preparations were complete, my mother approached me with a strained smile. "Elaine, we have arranged seating. You and Lily will be at the far end of the kids' table. We need the main table for the family members who do not get to see each other often." The implication that Lily and I were not fully family members was clear, but I nodded without comment. As I helped Lily find her assigned seat, I noticed the younger cousins treating her differently, their parents' attitudes having trickled down to them. Thomas whispered something to Emma, both glancing at Lily with the particular cruelty children reserve for those they perceive as different. Lily's smile faltered as she realized she was being excluded from their private joke. She tugged at my sleeve, her voice small and confused. "Mommy, why does everyone seem angry that we came? Did we do something wrong?" My heart broke at her perception, so accurate yet so painful. I knelt beside her chair, straightening her purple dress. "No, sweetheart. Sometimes grown-ups have complicated feelings that have nothing to do with you. You are perfect just as you are, and I am so proud to be your mom." As I reassured her, I fought back tears, determined not to show weakness in this house, where vulnerability was considered a fatal flaw. The final moment before dinner brought an ironic twist that no one else noticed. The television in the corner of the dining room, left on for the traditional football games, briefly showed a financial news segment. The crawler at the bottom displayed news about Innovate Now's major acquisition, mentioning its visionary CEO without naming me directly. My $20 million company was being celebrated on national news while my family seated me at the children's table, completely unaware of my success. The disconnect between my two worlds had never been more pronounced, and I found myself wondering how much longer I could or should maintain this exhausting charade. The dining room gleamed with my mother's best china, crystal glassware, and polished silver, an elaborate display of prosperity and tradition. The seating arrangement physically manifested our family hierarchy. My father, at the head of the main table, flanked by Patrick and Jennifer, with their spouses beside them. The most respected extended family members filled the remaining chairs while Lily and I sat at the far end of the adjacent kids' table, physically and symbolically separated. My father stood to offer the traditional Thanksgiving prayer, his deep voice carrying throughout the room. Lord, we thank you for this bountiful meal and for the blessing of family gathered here today. We are grateful for the success you have bestowed upon those who uphold traditional family values and work ethic. His eyes flicked briefly to me during the pointed reference, a small but deliberate gesture not lost on anyone present. As dishes were passed around, I noticed how serving platters reached Lily and me last often with diminished portions. The slight was so subtle that complaining would have seemed petty, yet the message was unmistakable. Patrick dominated the conversation, detailing his bank's record profits and the major accounts he had secured, unaware that my business represented nearly 15% of his branch's commercial revenue. Catherine interjected with anecdotes about their children's achievements at their exclusive private school, while Jennifer and William described their lavish honeymoon plans in exhaustive detail. Halfway through the meal, Uncle Robert, always one for traditional Thanksgiving rituals, suggested everyone share something they were thankful for this year. The circle of gratitude moved clockwise around the main table, with each family member offering predictable responses about health, success, and family blessings. When the pattern should have reached me, Uncle Robert awkwardly skipped to one of the children, the exclusion obvious to everyone. Catherine, perhaps feeling a momentary twinge of conscience, attempted to include me in the conversation. I have been volunteering at the Women's Center helping unfortunate single mothers find resources, she said, her tone suggesting she was extending this same charity to me through her attention. It is so rewarding helping those who have made difficult life choices find stability. I managed a tight smile, wondering what Catherine would think if she knew I had anonymously donated $50,000 to that same center last year. As dessert was being served, my father cleared his throat for an announcement. The room quieted immediately, a Pavlovian response to his authority. As some of you know, Martha and I have established a family trust fund for all our grandchildren, he began, his voice carrying the formal tone he reserved for important pronouncements. Each grandchild will receive funds for education and eventually a nest egg to start their adult lives properly. He paused, looking directly at me for the first time that evening. With one exception, Lily's portion will be managed by Patrick until she has a father figure or turns 25, whichever comes first. Given her unfortunate guidance situation, this seems the only responsible approach. The room fell silent. Even those accustomed to my father's controlling nature seemed shocked by the public humiliation. Lily thankfully was in the kitchen helping my mother bring out pie and did not hear the announcement. I set down my fork deliberately, my voice calm, despite the anger burning through me. What exactly do you mean by unfortunate guidance situation? My father looked surprised that I would question him publicly. It is simply a fact, Elaine, that children need both parents. Your choices have left Lily without proper male guidance. Patrick has kindly agreed to oversee her financial education since you clearly lack the necessary skills. This was the moment where I historically would have retreated, accepting the criticism to keep peace. But something had changed. Perhaps it was seeing Lily's confusion earlier, or perhaps it was the accumulated weight of years of judgment. Whatever the cause, I found myself responding with unexpected composure. I appreciate your concern, Dad, but Lily has excellent guidance. She ranks top of her class in mathematics and science. Her teachers call her exceptionally well-adjusted and emotionally intelligent. As for financial education, I believe I can handle that adequately. My mother, sensing conflict, immediately tried to change the subject. Who would like more mashed potatoes I made extra this year? Patrick, however, could not resist the opportunity to reinforce his superior position. Come on, Elaine. We all know you have struggled with finances since, well, everything happened. Lily would benefit from someone with actual financial literacy guiding her trust. I have a degree in finance as well as computer science, I replied, evenly revealing information my family had never bothered to learn. I completed my education while raising Lily. The revelation seemed to surprise everyone at the table. My father's expression darkened as he realized I had achieved something he had assumed impossible. A degree you have clearly wasted, he dismissed. If you had any real financial acumen, you would not be living in that tiny apartment working at some insignificant tech job. At that moment, Lily returned to the dining room, catching the end of my father's statement. Her small face registered confusion and hurt as she looked between her grandfather and me. "My mom has the best job ever," she said with childish loyalty. "She helps people build things on computers." My father's dismissive snort at Lily's defense was the final straw. I stood slowly, my hands steady despite my racing heart. Lily is right. I do have a good job. More importantly, I have raised a daughter who is kind, intelligent, and empathetic, despite having limited contact with family members who should have supported us both. The room grew uncomfortably quiet. My father's face reddened, unused to being challenged in his domain. "You have always been rebellious," he said, his voice dangerously low. "Always thinking you know better than everyone else. Look where it got you." "Where exactly has it gotten me, Dad? Please explain what terrible fate has befallen me, because I chose to raise my daughter and pursue my career." "You have always been the family disgrace," he exploded, slamming his hand on the table hard enough to make the crystal water glasses jump. "Getting yourself pregnant, refusing to fix the situation, insisting on raising a child alone, and now you have the audacity to question my financial decisions." He stood abruptly, pointing toward the door. "Get out, you piece of trash. You are not welcome in this house if you cannot respect the family structure and my decisions." Complete silence fell over the table. Relatives stared at their plates, unwilling to witness or intervene. My mother covered her mouth with her napkin, eyes wide, but voice absent as always. I felt a strange calm descend over me. After years of seeking approval and acceptance, the finality of his rejection was almost liberating. "Fine," I said, simply not raising my voice or showing any emotion. The single word seemed to confuse my father more than any argument could have. He had expected tears, pleading, or anger, the emotional responses he could use to further paint me as unstable or inappropriate. My calm acceptance left him momentarily speechless. I turned to Lily, who stood frozen beside me, her eyes wide with shock. "Sweetheart, it is time for us to go. Please get your coat." With remarkable composure for a 7-year-old, Lily nodded and walked to the hallway closet. I collected our belongings while the entire family remained seated, watching in uncomfortable silence. At the doorway, I turned back for a final word. Not in anger, but with a clarity I had never before felt in that house. "Thank you for clarifying where we stand. It makes future decisions much simpler." The sound of the door closing behind us felt like the period at the end of a very long, complicated sentence. In the driveway, I helped Lily into her booster seat, my movements deliberate and controlled. Only once we had driven around the corner out of sight of the house did I allow myself a deep, shaky breath. Behind us lay the remnants of family ties built on conditions and appearances. Ahead lay a future I would now shape entirely on my own terms. For the first 20 minutes of our drive back to Cambridge, neither of us spoke. The car radio played holiday music that felt jarringly cheerful against our mood. I glanced occasionally at Lily in the rearview mirror, her small face serious as she watched the suburban landscape give way to city streets. Finally, her voice came from the back seat, small but steady. "Why was Grandpa so mean, Mommy? Did I do something wrong with my dress or my words?" I pulled into a grocery store parking lot, needing to give her my full attention for this conversation. Turning in my seat, I found her eyes so trusting and confused. "No, sweetheart, you did absolutely nothing wrong. Your dress is beautiful and your words were perfect." I reached back to squeeze her hand. Sometimes adults, even grandparents, have very specific ideas about how families should look and behave. When people do not fit those exact ideas, some adults have trouble accepting that different can still be wonderful. Her brow furrowed in concentration. Like when Thomas said, "Our family is broken because I do not have a dad." My heart contracted at the revelation that her cousin had said such things, but I kept my expression neutral. "Our family is not broken, Lily. Families come in all different shapes and sizes. Ours is small but mighty, just you and me loving each other very much. That is more important than following rules about what families should look like." She considered this seriously, then nodded. "I think so too, and I think Grandpa's rules are not very nice rules." "I agree," I said, simply relieved at her perception and resilience. When we arrived at our modest 2-bedroom apartment, Lily was exhausted from the emotional day. After a quick dinner of leftover pizza, she fell asleep quickly, clutching her favorite stuffed penguin. I sat alone in our darkened living room, the weight of the day settling around me. For 7 years, I had maintained a careful division between my successful professional life and my strained family relationships. I had allowed them to believe I was struggling, perhaps out of pride, perhaps hoping they would eventually accept me without external validation. Tonight had made it abundantly clear that acceptance would never come, regardless of my efforts or accomplishments. The realization was both painful and freeing. Around midnight, I made a decision. I called Lauren, my executive assistant, who knew more about my personal life than anyone except Stephanie. "I need the Miami beach house ready by tomorrow evening," I said when she answered. Lauren, accustomed to my occasional urgent requests, did not question the timing. "Of course, the property management company can have it prepared immediately. Will you need transportation arranged as well?" "Yes. Private jet from Boston to Miami tomorrow morning. And Lauren, this is permanent. We are moving headquarters." "Understood," she replied, her efficient tone conveying support without prying. "I will make all necessary arrangements and brief the executive team. Do you need anything else tonight?" "Just send me the flight details when confirmed." "Thank you, Lauren." At 6:30 the next morning, I called Stephanie, knowing she would be awake for her early hospital shift. "It finally happened," I said when she answered. "Complete explosion. He called me trash and kicked us out." "Oh my God, Elaine. Are you and Lily okay?" "Actually, yes. Better than okay. I am moving to Miami today." The silence on the line spoke volumes before Stephanie found her voice. "Wow, that is decisive. Are you sure this is not a reaction to yesterday?" "It is absolutely a reaction to yesterday, but not an impulsive one. I have owned the beach house for 6 months, been contemplating this move for years. Yesterday just removed my last reason to stay, this ridiculous hope that my family would eventually see me as worthy." "Then I completely support you," Stephanie said firmly. "And I am booking a flight to visit as soon as you are settled. Promise me." "Promise. You will have your own room with an ocean view." After we hung up, I went to wake Lily sitting gently on the edge of her bed. "Good morning, sweetheart. I have something exciting to tell you. How would you feel about a new adventure?" She rubbed her eyes sleepily. "What kind of adventure?" "We are moving to our house in Miami right by the ocean. You can swim every day, go to a new school, and make new friends. What do you think?" Her expression cycled through surprised confusion and then cautious excitement. "For real, we have a house by the ocean." "For real. I bought it for us a while ago, and now it is time to live there. We are flying there today." "What about my school and my friends here?" she asked, the practicality that sometimes made her seem older than 7 emerging through her excitement. "You can video chat with your friends, and you will make wonderful new friends in Miami. Sometimes big changes are scary but lead to amazing new beginnings." Lily considered this, then nodded, with the adaptability of childhood. "Okay, can I bring all my books and Penguin?" "Absolutely. We will pack the important things today and have the rest sent later." The next few hours passed in organized chaos as we packed essential belongings. I contacted Lily's school explaining our sudden transfer with a vague reference to family circumstances. The principal, who had always been supportive, promised to have her records transferred immediately to the private school in Miami, where I had already secured her admission months ago, part of my contingency planning. Lauren called to confirm our flight details and report that the Miami house was being prepared, staff hired, and necessary business arrangements coordinated. The efficiency with which my life could be transplanted was both a privilege of my financial position and a sad commentary on how few deep connections we had in Boston beyond Stephanie. As we prepared to leave, I looked around our apartment one last time. Despite its modesty, it had been a good home, the place where I had built my business and raised Lily through her early years. But it had also been a hiding place, part of the costume I wore to maintain the illusion my family needed to see. We took a taxi to the private terminal at Boston Logan Airport, the driver helping with our limited luggage. As we pulled up to the executive aviation facility, Lily's eyes widened. "This does not look like the regular airport," she observed, always perceptive. "This is a special area for private planes," I explained, realizing this would be the first of many revelations about our actual circumstances. Inside the terminal, we were greeted with respectful efficiency, escorted through a private security screening, and led directly to our waiting jet. Lily froze at the foot of the boarding stairs, her expression a mixture of confusion and awe. "Is this all for us?" she whispered. "Yes, sweetheart. There are some things about our life that are going to change. I have a successful company that allows us to travel this way." As we settled into the luxurious cabin, my phone rang with my mother's number. I let it go to voicemail, not ready for that conversation yet. Whatever mix of guilt, anger, or manipulation awaited could wait until we were safely established in our new life. The symbolism of the moment was not lost on me as our plane accelerated down the runway and lifted into the clear November sky. Below us, Boston grew smaller, the city where I had experienced both my greatest professional triumphs and most painful personal rejections receding into the distance. 3 hours later, we descended into Miami's abundant sunshine, the landscape below us a vivid contrast to gray New England November. Palm trees swayed along boulevards, and the Atlantic Ocean sparkled in the distance. A driver met us at the private aviation terminal, greeting us with a warmth and respect I rarely experienced from my own family. "Welcome to Miami, Miss Winters. The house is ready for you and Miss Lily. Is there anything specific you need on the way?" The 20-minute drive to our waterfront property took us through upscale neighborhoods before turning onto a private road leading to our gated community. As we pulled into the circular driveway of our Mediterranean-style villa, Lily gasped audibly. "This is our house, really ours." "Really ours," I confirmed, experiencing a strange mix of emotions as we stepped out into the warm Florida air. The property was everything I had envisioned when purchasing its 6,000 square feet of elegant living space, floor-to-ceiling windows facing the ocean, a professional kitchen, 5 bedrooms, and a private stretch of beach accessed directly from our infinity pool area. Lily ran through the rooms, her excitement growing with each new discovery. She finally stopped at the bedroom I had designed, specifically for her, decorated in ocean blues and purples with a reading nook overlooking the water. "Mom, this is amazing. Why did we not live here before?" The innocent question cut to the heart of choices I had made for complicated reasons, some of which I was only now beginning to fully understand. "Sometimes people hold on to things that are not working because they hope they will change," I answered honestly. "I kept hoping certain relationships would improve if I just tried hard enough or waited long enough. Yesterday helped me realize it was time to stop waiting and start living our best life." As Lily explored her new domain, I stood on the terrace overlooking the Atlantic, feeling the weight of pretense lifting from my shoulders. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to fully inhabit my success rather than hiding it. The freedom was dizzying, terrifying, and exhilarating all at once. That evening, watching Lily splash in our infinity pool against the backdrop of a spectacular sunset, I made several important decisions about how to handle the inevitable fallout from our departure. Tomorrow would bring necessary conversations and revelations, but tonight belonged to us, the family we had built together despite every obstacle. I woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the rhythmic sound of waves. For a moment, the unfamiliar surroundings disoriented me before yesterday's events came rushing back. The confrontation, our abrupt departure, the flight to Miami, all unfolded in my mind as I oriented myself in our new reality. Padding across the cool marble floors to the kitchen, I found Lily already awake, sitting on a terrace chair with her legs tucked under her, watching pelicans dive into the ocean. "Good morning, ocean girl," I said, joining her with a cup of coffee. "Mom, I saw dolphins earlier. Real ones right out there." Her excitement was palpable, her previous distress apparently eclipsed by the wonders of our new environment. We enjoyed breakfast on the terrace, planning our new life between bites of fresh fruit and pastries the house staff had prepared. Lily's natural resilience amazed me, her ability to embrace change, a gift I hoped she would never lose. After breakfast, I settled into the home office to begin a series of business calls that would establish our relocated headquarters. The Miami business community had been courting Innovate Now for months, offering tax incentives and introductions to the growing tech ecosystem. What had begun as a contingency plan was now becoming reality. My executive team, accustomed to remote work and adaptive planning, transitioned smoothly to the news. By midday, press releases were drafted, regulatory filings prepared, and a timeline established for key personnel relocations. The efficiency with which a $20 million company could pivot reinforced my confidence in the team I had built. Around 2 in the afternoon, my phone rang with Patrick's number. After briefly considering letting it go to voicemail, I decided that confronting reality was part of our new beginning. "Hello, Patrick," I answered calmly. Elaine, what the hell is going on? Mom says you and Lily have disappeared. His tone held the familiar mixture of condescension and irritation, as if I were a problematic child rather than his adult sister. We have not disappeared. We have relocated to Miami. Miami? What are you talking about? Is this some kind of emotional reaction to yesterday? You cannot just run away because Dad said some harsh truths. I smiled at his predictable response. I'm not running away, Patrick. I am sitting on the terrace of my beach house looking at the Atlantic Ocean. You're what, Elaine? This is not funny. Mom is upset and you are making things worse with these ridiculous claims. My beach house in Miami. 6,000 square feet private beach access infinity pool. I purchased it 6 months ago as part of my company's expansion plans. His momentary silence suggested he was finally processing that something fundamental had changed in our dynamic. What company expansion? Your little app business. Innovate now. We closed a $40 million acquisition this week. The company is currently valued at just over $20 million, though that will likely increase with our new AI division. I could practically hear his brain struggling to reconcile this information with his fixed image of me as his struggling, irresponsible sister. That is impossible, he finally managed. I would know if you were running a company that size. I am a senior VP at the bank. Yes, at First Boston Financial, which handles several of my corporate accounts. In fact, your promotion last year was largely due to the fees my company pays your division. Did you never wonder who the mysterious tech entrepreneur was behind account number INV 82977? His breathing changed, recognition dawning. That is your account. But that client has a private banking portfolio worth millions and does business internationally. Yes, that would be me. The family Disgrace apparently has better financial acumen than anyone gave her credit for. Patrick's stunned silence lasted several seconds before he attempted to recover. Elaine, this changes everything. Dad did not understand. You should have told us. We can fix this whole misunderstanding. There is nothing to fix, Patrick. Yesterday was not a misunderstanding. It was the culmination of years of judgment and conditional acceptance. The only thing that has changed is that now you know I do not need your approval or support. After hanging up with Patrick, I received the expected call from my mother. Her voice trembled with a mixture of tears and indignation. Elaine, how could you leave without saying anything? Your father is very upset. I imagine he is, Mom. Being disobeyed tends to upset him. Patrick told me some incredible story about you having a successful business and a house in Miami. Is that true? Every word. Innovate Now has been growing steadily for 7 years. I am worth approximately $20 million at present. Her gasp was audible. But why did you never tell us? Why did you let us believe you were struggling? Would it have made a difference? Mom, would Dad have treated me with respect if he knew I was financially successful, or would he have found other reasons to consider me a disappointment? You have to understand, your father only wants what is best for the family. No, he wants what fits his narrow definition of success and propriety. And speaking of family support, you should know that I have been financially supporting the family for years. What are you talking about? I own your house, Mom. When Dad made those poor investments 3 years ago and nearly lost it, I purchased the mortgage through a holding company. I paid for his heart surgery when your insurance denied coverage. The new landscaping, Jennifer's college tuition, even the country club membership you could no longer afford, all came from me. The prolonged silence suggested she was trying to absorb information that fundamentally rewrote her understanding of our family dynamic. Why would you do all that and not tell us? She finally asked, her voice small. Because I kept hoping that one day you would accept and love me for who I am, not what I could provide. Yesterday made it clear that was never going to happen. Before she could respond, I added, I am sending you documentation of everything. Please share it with Dad when he is ready to understand the truth about who has really been supporting this family. Within an hour, Jennifer called, her tone dramatically different from her usual superior attitude. Elaine, I just heard from Patrick. Is it true you are actually some kind of tech millionaire? Hello to you too, Jennifer. Yes, it is true. This is incredible. Why did you not tell any of us? We could have celebrated your success, included you more. Could you? The same people who excluded me from family photos because I did not fit the image. The same people who seated my daughter at the far end of the kids' table as if she were not really family. That was all a misunderstanding, Jennifer protested. If we had known about your success, then your treatment would have been based on my bank account rather than genuine acceptance, which is no better. I want to come visit you in Miami. We can reconnect, be real sisters again. Jennifer, we were never real sisters in the way that matters. Real siblings support each other through difficulties, not just show up when there is success to be associated with. That is not fair, Elaine. Perhaps not. But before we can have any relationship going forward, I need to establish clear boundaries. I will not be manipulated, guilted, or treated as less than. If you can accept those terms, we can slowly rebuild some kind of connection. After completing these difficult conversations, I sent a detailed email to my father with documentation of all the financial support I had provided over the years. Screenshots of payments, property deeds, investment accounts, and medical bills painted an undeniable picture of who had really been the family's safety net. I instructed my financial team to cease all family support payments immediately. The mortgage would remain untouched for now, but all discretionary funding would stop. That afternoon, I received a panicked call from Patrick about the bank discovering the connection between his department and my company's. The executive committee is questioning why I never disclosed that my sister owns one of our largest commercial accounts, he said, his voice tight with stress. They are concerned about potential conflicts of interest and my failure to recognize my own sister's business. This could affect my promotion track. That sounds challenging, I replied, not offering assistance. Elaine, I need your help. Could you tell them you deliberately kept your identity secret from the bank? I will not lie for you, Patrick. I never concealed my identity. The fact that you never bothered to learn anything about my business is not my responsibility to fix. Later that day, I attended a meeting with the Miami mayor and Economic Development Council about our new tech headquarters. The local business community welcomed the influx of high-paying jobs and innovation potential, treating me with the professional respect I had earned, but my family had never granted. Local press covered the meeting with the Miami Business Journal, running a feature story about the tech genius bringing jobs to Miami that included details about my background and professional journey. The article mentioned my family background in Boston, though diplomatically avoided the recent drama. As I returned to our beach house that evening, Lauren informed me that my father had left 5 increasingly urgent voicemails after presumably seeing the news coverage and meeting with his financial advisor about the suddenly missing support funds. Would you like me to transcribe them for you? She asked. No need. I am sure I can imagine the content. I will deal with him when I am ready. That evening, I helped Lily enroll in her new school via video conference with the headmaster, who was eager to welcome the daughter of Miami's newest business leader. The contrast between the respect we received in our new community and the dismissal we had experienced from my family could not have been more stark. As the sun set over the Atlantic, Lily and I built a sandcastle on our private beach, laughing as the waves periodically threatened our architectural creation. When my phone displayed my father's 6th call attempt of the day, I declined it without hesitation, choosing instead to focus on the joy of the moment with my daughter. For the first time in years, I felt completely present, unburdened by the weight of seeking approval I would never receive. The family that had rejected us was suddenly desperate for connection now that my success was public, but I was no longer desperate for their acceptance. The castle we built that evening was not perfect, but it was authentically ours, much like the new life we were creating together. 3 weeks later, Lily and I were decorating our beach house for Christmas, a process entirely different from the stress-filled holidays of previous years. Instead of worrying about meeting my father's exacting standards or enduring veiled criticisms, we focused on creating traditions that reflected our values and brought us joy. Can we put lights around all the palm trees? Lily asked, her enthusiasm for our new environment still fresh. Absolutely. And maybe we should have a sandman instead of a snowman this year, I suggested, reveling in her delighted laughter. In the short time since our move, Lily had blossomed. Her new school welcomed her intelligence and creativity without the baggage of family history. She made friends who knew nothing about her background and therefore did not judge her for lacking a father. For perhaps the first time, she was being seen and appreciated simply for herself. My company was thriving in its new headquarters. Miami's business community welcomed Innovate Now with open arms, and our recent acquisition was integrating smoothly. The local tech ecosystem proved energizing with collaborative opportunities that would have been impossible in Boston's more traditional business environment. Within 2 weeks of our arrival, I received an invitation to chair the local Business Leadership Council, a position that would have been unthinkable in Boston, where my family name carried complicated associations. Here I was evaluated solely on my professional accomplishments and vision. One morning in mid-December, a thick cream envelope arrived with my mother's distinctive handwriting. Inside was a 5-page handwritten letter, something so unusual in our digital age that it immediately conveyed the gravity of her thoughts. "Dear Elaine," she began, "words cannot express the shame I feel upon realizing how deeply we have hurt you and Lily over the years. The documentation you sent showed not just your tremendous success, which is impressive beyond words, but more importantly, the generosity of spirit you maintained despite our treatment." She continued with painful honesty about her own complicity through silence her regret at prioritizing my father's approval over supporting her daughter and her hope that someday I might consider allowing her to be part of our lives, again on entirely new terms. "I do not expect immediate forgiveness," she wrote toward the end. "I have not earned it. But I want you to know that your courage has forced me to examine my own choices in a way I should have done decades ago." After careful consideration, I sent a measured response opening the door to possible reconciliation while establishing clear boundaries. "Forgiveness may be possible with time," I wrote, "but trust will need to be rebuilt slowly, through consistent actions, not words or intentions." A week before Christmas, Jennifer arrived unannounced at our door without William, and with none of her usual polished perfection. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her typically immaculate appearance slightly disheveled. I broke off the engagement she blurted before I could even invite her in. Over coffee on the terrace, watching Lily play at the edge of the waves with Lauren's daughter, Jennifer revealed the personal earthquake our family rupture had triggered in her life. "Seeing you walk away that day, choose yourself and Lily over Dad's approval, it made me question everything she admitted. William and I had been fighting for months. He is exactly the man Dad wanted for me, which turns out to be exactly the wrong man for who I actually am." "And who are you, Jennifer?" I asked gently. "I have no idea," she said, tears spilling down her cheeks. "That is the terrifying part. I have spent 29 years being whoever Dad needed me to be. I do not even know what I want or believe anymore." In that moment of raw vulnerability, the artificial distance between us dissolved. Not all wounds were healed, but a new foundation for an authentic sister relationship became possible, built on shared experience rather than performance of family roles. Patrick's journey proved more complicated. The loss of my company's accounts had indeed affected his standing at the bank, though not as dramatically as he initially feared. After several weeks of defensive messages blaming me for his professional challenges, he sent an email that suggested the beginning of self-reflection. "I realize now how arrogant I have been," he wrote. "Dismissing your work while unknowingly depending on it for my own success is an irony I am still processing. I have taken so much for granted in my life, including the respect and opportunities automatically granted to me as Gerald Winters' son." My father maintained his silence for nearly a month. No apologies, no acknowledgments, simply absence where his controlling presence had once loomed large. My mother reported that he spent hours in his study, reviewing the financial documents I had sent, occasionally emerging with questions no one could answer. As Christmas approached, I hosted a holiday party for my executive team and new Miami friends. Our beach house glowed with lights filled with laughter and genuine warmth. Stephanie visited for the week, marveling at the transformation in both our physical circumstances and my emotional state. "You seem taller somehow," she observed, as we shared wine on the terrace after Lily had gone to bed. "Like you were carrying a weight for so long you did not even realize how much it was compressing you." "I feel lighter," I agreed. "Not just because the secret is out, but because I finally stopped seeking approval from people who could never give it freely." Lily thrived in our new environment, telling me one evening as I tucked her in, "I feel free here, Mom, like I can breathe bigger breaths." Her simple observation crystallized the emotional reality we had both experienced, the constriction of living under the weight of constant judgment even from hundreds of miles away. Throughout December, I worked with a therapist to process the complex grief of family estrangement. Not all family breaks are permanent, she reminded me, but all require honest assessment of what healthy connection would actually look like going forward. New Year's Eve found us hosting an intimate beach gathering with new friends. As midnight approached, Lily, allowed to stay up for the occasion, helped distribute sparklers to everyone. My phone vibrated with a text message from my father, the first direct communication since Thanksgiving. Financial advisor says, house payment due. Situation difficult. Perhaps time to move forward. Call when convenient. No apology, no acknowledgement of harm, caused simply practical concerns and a vague suggestion of reconciliation on his terms. The old me would have immediately responded, eager for any opening toward paternal approval. The new me set the phone aside, choosing instead to be fully present for the countdown with people who valued us authentically. As January unfolded, I continued the process of establishing healthy boundaries with my family of origin while nurturing the family Lily and I had created together. Some days brought progress, others setbacks, but underlying it all was a newfound confidence in my own worth, independent of external validation. One sunny afternoon, Lily and I built elaborate sandcastles at the water's edge, laughing as the incoming tide slowly reclaimed our creations. You know what Mom, Lily said, patting the sand into a tower? Thomas told me our family was broken, but he was wrong. We are each other's family, and that is enough. Her wisdom, so clear and uncomplicated, brought tears to my eyes. More than enough, I agreed. In the months since our dramatic exit from Boston, I had learned that losing toxic blood relations had created space for authentic connections to flourish. The family we choose, the one built on mutual respect and genuine affection, rather than obligation or appearance, provides a foundation far stronger than the one I had spent years trying to shore up. The ultimate lesson of our journey came not from the vindication of revealing my success or even the satisfaction of standing up for myself. It came from watching Lily grow into a child unencumbered by the weight of conditional acceptance, free to become herself rather than contorting to meet arbitrary standards set by others. True family, I finally understood, is measured not by shared DNA but by shared respect, not by adherence to tradition but by commitment to each other's authentic growth and happiness. As our sandcastle crumbled under an enthusiastic wave, Lily and I simply laughed and began building anew, a perfect metaphor for the life we were creating, one grain at a time. If my story resonates with you, please share in the comments how you have navigated difficult family dynamics in your own life. Have you ever had to choose between authenticity and approval? Did standing up for yourself change relationships in unexpected ways? Your experiences might help someone else find the courage to value themselves. And if you found value in this story, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear that sometimes walking away is the first step toward finding your true home. Thank you for being part of this journey with me, and remember that your worth is never determined by those who fail to see it.